Welcome to the May edition of the construction webinar series. My name is Tashia Rasul. I am a partner here at LOIS Law Firm, where I oversee the defense of workers' compensation claims that arise out of construction accidents. That's all I do. That's my specialty here. That's what my team, both the attorneys and the paralegals, do here. I've been doing this webinar for a couple of years now, just talking about OSIPs and CSIPs, wrap-ups in general, construction claims, some of the issues that we've been seeing in the workers' compensation world and how we've been addressing those issues. For those of you joining me for the very first time, thank you. For those of you who have been joining me month after month, thank you for coming back. This month, we are going to talk about the wrap-up program, what to actually do in terms of assembling it, and the initial response. Just a reminder that this is a live broadcast, and in the end, there will be a live question and answer session. You will see the box that looks like this. You can type your question in there. Hopefully it'll pop up in my end and I will provide a response if we still have time. If not, you can always email me and I will provide you with a response, or you can give me a call if you'd like to chat also. All right, so let's get into it. We're talking about the wrap-up team. I may refer to it as OSIP throughout the webinar just because most of the clients that we deal with are OSIP clients, but I am using the terms OSIP and wrap-up interchangeably. And last month, I talked about setting up this team that's very important. It consists both of the workers' compensation folks and the general liability folks, and knowing who does what and where to go for certain information at the time of a loss. So today, let's talk a little bit about who should be on the team. So we start with the owner or the general contractor. If it's an OSIP, it would be the owner. If it's a general contractor, if it's a CSIP, it would be the general contractor, who is pretty much at the top, right? They're in charge of the project. Then there's a broker. I don't think I've seen a wrap-up program that doesn't have a broker. The broker is the one that facilitates the setup of the insurance policies. Some brokerage firms also offer risk management services, but they're the ones that work with the owner and the insurance carrier to get coverage for the project at issue. If they're also managing risk, the broker takes a very active role in terms of providing guidance and advice as to how the file should move, giving authority for certain things, and pretty much overseeing how the files are handled by the insurance carrier, the TPA, and also defense counsel. The insurance carrier is the one that holds the insurance policy. Generally, they are administered by what is called a third-party administrator. We refer to them as a TPA for short. But the insurance carrier is the one that holds the policy. Some of them administer it themselves. The TPA is the one that does the day-to-day handling of the claim, authorizing treatment, issue indemnity payments, doing the settlements, and so forth. The safety team. So every wrap-up program generally has a safety team, especially given the fact that it's a construction job site, it's high risk, could potentially result in serious injuries, falls from ladders and scaffolding and so forth. So in order to ensure that the safety measures are being carried out on the job site, it's important to have an actual safety team. This contains of a number of individuals. You'll have like a safety manager, maybe coming from an outside vendor or one of the contractor, like the general contractor. Sometimes it also includes, members of the subcontractors. Everyone who is part of the safety team is going to have a specific role on the job site. They're going to ensure that all of the standards, whether they're project specific or the OSHA standards, are being met, and all of the workers are being aware of any hazards. That hazards are remedied if they're known, and just to ensure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to in an effort to prevent accidents on the job site. On-site nurse or medic, pretty much every wrap-up program I've seen has an on-site nurse or medic, and if they don't, they do have a facility that's readily available for them to to call a doctor or a nurse from in the event there's a minor injury on the job site. A lot of times it's just a nurse. Sometimes, depending on the project, it could be an actual doctor who's on the job site, but it's generally a nurse or a medic. Investigation. The wrap-up programs usually use a vendor to do their investigation. This can be both the on-site investigation that takes place on the day that an accident occurs, or later down the road, if you're doing covert surveillance, the one that you need to send your investigators out to see what the claimant's up to. These are usually done through a vendor, and the vendor is usually selected at the very beginning of the program, so you know who to go to when in need. Other vendors, well, I just mentioned the surveillance one. The IME vendors, we should have these lined up in the very beginning also. Generally, it's one or two. We know the doctors that they're going to be using. The doctors are usually vetted. Medicare secondary payer compliance issues are going to come up in a lot of these claims, so you should have an MSA vendor on hand in the event that we need to do an MSA when it comes time for a settlement. Workers' compensation defense counsel, the wrap-up program should be choosing their defense counsel from the very beginning. Based on my experience, it's usually a panel of defense counsel, maybe 2, 3, 4, depending on the size of the program. It's usually selected, and also the general liability defense counsel usually selected. So as soon as an accident occurs or is alleged to have occurred, they know who to call from the very beginning. And oftentimes, general liability defense counsel is the one that actually goes out to the job site. So it's good to know who you're going to call when an accident occurs. So getting the team together. Now, I know it might seem a little counterproductive to do this if we haven't yet had an accident or an issue on the job site. However, based on what I've seen, it's important to really get everyone in the room together in the very beginning, even before the project starts. I know now times are different, so everyone's doing meetings virtually. So it's okay to schedule one of those meetings also, just so that everyone can meet each other. There should be like a booklet or a list with all of the parties, the team members, contact information, what their role is going to be. There should be information about the phases of the project, the physical aspect of the job site. I'm talking about specific dimensions. Does it also include maybe a little part that's, not on this particular block that it's on, something that could be considered offsite, but it really isn't. The contractors, who are your general contractors? Who are the subcontractors? What kind of trades are going to be on the project? Which unions are you going to be using workers from? It's important to know that also. Lingo and unique aspects of the project. So I've seen every project has some keywords that they use that's only familiar to the specific project. It's good to know what those are, so when you're having a conversation with one of the team members about something that happened on the project and they use this lingo that's not something that's usually used, at least you'll become familiar and you'll understand what they're talking about. Defense counsel is going to know what they're talking about. It's also good for defense counsel to know, because when speaking with witnesses or taking the claimant's testimony, anything that's unique to the project, all team members should be aware of it. Anticipated hazards and obstacles. There are times when the project would know that something could potentially be an issue. For example, if you're maybe like a flood zone, when it rains, there might be flooding on the job site. That's something we're going to have to address, take precautions or address at the time when it happens. Anything that is known at the time of the putting together of the program, I think it should be shared with all of the parties, especially your safety people and your defense counsel and your claims handler, so they know how to address those issues or factor in those issues when thinking about a compensability of a claim. Oh, and your safety team and medic, they should also be part of the meeting. They're full of knowledge. They should be able to tell everyone what the plan is, the safety plan, how often there are going to be meetings, what the procedure is for reporting an incident, how it's going to be done, how it's going to be papered up, who an injured worker needs to go to in the event of an issue. So all of these parties really should be in the same room at the same time before the project even starts, just to become familiar with each other and ask questions and start off on the right foot. When you're setting up the meeting for everyone to be together, what should we be doing? So we should be publishing team contacts and the OSIP or CSIP manual. I've noticed that not a lot of people are familiar with the OSIP manual or the wrap-up manual, but this is the document that delineates everything about the project, right? The purpose of the project, what's going to be built, the parties that are going to be on the project, the contractor, subcontractor, the process for enrollment, all of the safety issues, the vendors, and so forth. All of these things are included in the policy manual. We should be requesting those as defense attorneys. We should be requesting those for every project that we're working on because it has all of this information and can provide a lot of guidance in the defense of the claim. We should also be setting up a timeline for action to be taken. Now, this is extremely important, probably one of the most important purposes of having everyone together and having this meeting, doing this introduction. Everyone should know what the timeline is for the action. So the first 24 hours, if you're going to do an investigation, which is something I highly recommend, who are the parties that are going to be a part of that investigation? They should all be aware. They should know who to contact, who's going to be involved. The first 48 hours, the first week, who's going to make a decision about the compensability of the claim? Are you going to call your workers' comp defense counsel, or is this a decision that's going to be made by the claims examiner and the broker, the insurance carrier, the owner? Who's going to be involved in these decisions? Just my 2 cents, I have to add it because of what I've seen in some of the claims that I handle is I recommend calling your workers' comp defense attorney for input on what to do in terms of whether to accept or deny a claim. The reason is sometimes we see things that are not very obvious, or we can predict things given the potential venue of the claim or the job site or maybe other similar claims we've handled, and we can provide tailored advice in terms of whether to accept or deny, what to accept for, what to deny for, red flags. We would also be able to give some input in your investigation. So I would recommend looping in your workers' comp defense counsel within the first 24 hours to help you with those decisions. You should also be outlining loss reporting rules. What's going to happen when an accident occurs? What are the next steps, right? What's going to happen when an accident is being alleged? We see a lot of those unwitnessed accidents. What is the protocol? Who does the writing up on? Who does the writing up of it? Where does the write-up go? When does the broker get involved? When does the claims handler get involved? When does the owner get involved? When does the medic get involved? These are all, I know it sounds like very specific and you're getting down to like the nitty-gritty, but it's really, really important in order to ensure that, the process is smooth. And here's where you're probably going to laugh at me when I tell you, you should have a drill. You really should have a drill. Make up an accident, right? Report it to everyone and see how it plays out, see how it unfolds. The first 24 to 48 hours are the most crucial, so your drill really should be focused on those on the first 2 days, and that's when you'll know whether your process is set up to run smoothly. Those who should be involved will be involved. They'll know the right person to go to, and of course, since it's a fake accident you're making up for the purpose of the drill, it's going to be harder to drill beyond the first 24 hours or beyond the first week, but it's definitely worth it. All right, so at the time of the loss, So we talked about the first 24 hours being so important. I think the initial response is key, especially when there's been a catastrophic accident, right? We need to preserve the evidence. You need to get your investigator out there. You need to get your defense counsel out there to help preserve the evidence. As we know, the job site is very organic, it's moving. The workers who may be there at the time of the accident, they may not be there tomorrow because the job has ended. The machinery that's there today may not be there. It might be moved. All other evidence might be moved or shifted. If you wait a week, the area where the job occurred, the area where the accident occurred may not look the same a week later because the construction just continued, right? There's no stopping the construction. So it's very important to do an immediate on-site investigation. Get your team out there, let them preserve all of the evidence, take photos, get the witness names and contact information. Witness statements are very important, but more so the contact information, because when they're no longer in the job site, at least we'll be able to still get in touch with them. Getting your attorney involved, it's really the preference of the wrap-up program. I know the general liability attorneys usually go out with the investigators. Sometimes we've gone out also as workers' comp defense attorneys. We also need to see what's happened, what the job site looked like, to help with our cross-examination of the claimant, to help when we're speaking with the witnesses and putting everything together for the trial. I'm a little ahead of myself here today, it looks like. All right, so this is the importance of the initial investigation that I just went through. Before we end, actually. So moving on after the first 48 hours. So just a reminder, the workers' compensation claim moves very, very quickly. So getting this team in place in the very beginning, it would help your workers' compensation claim and your attorneys to provide a proper and solid defense. This is important because generally, when there's an accident on a construction site, and I am yet to see an accident without a third party or a general liability component. So usually when there's one, they file a GL claim. The claimant's attorneys know how it works. The workers' compensation attorneys, they are friends with the plaintiff's attorneys. Hey, I got this workers' comp claim on the construction site. You're going to file a GL claim. The only times we don't see the GL claim is if they're claiming occupational or repetitive injury claim. Now, the workers' comp claim, and I spoke about this a few months ago, but this is, I would just like to reiterate the reason why it's important to get your team together and make sure everyone knows their role in the very beginning. The workers' comp claim goes so quickly. You can go from accident to a trial in 30, 45, maybe 60 days. It's not a lot of time to get all of the information you need, all of the documentation, the evidence, even the witnesses. I mean, it might seem like a long time, but it goes by so quickly. So getting your defense counsel involved from the very beginning, getting all of the evidence to them, getting them to be part of the decision-making process would really help to tee up a defense, especially if you're denying a claim. So from a workers' comp perspective, I think it's extremely important. I have seen cases where, you know, on smaller projects where things aren't going so smoothly in the very beginning, defense counsel aren't being brought in, the claims being accepted, and then 60 days down the road, we're like, oh wait, we should not have accepted the claim. And it turns out because, you know, there wasn't really a collaboration or a proper investigation done in the very beginning. So my word of advice is do it from the very beginning, do it even before a loss, and remember that it's better to deny a claim, to do a thorough investigation and then accept it. If you accept a claim, it's kind of hard to walk that back. So we want to try to avoid that also. All right, so today's session's really short. I just wanted to wrap up this discussion about why it's important to have a team on these wrap-up programs, the purpose of the team, and when the team should start working, which is before the accident occurs. Next month, we are going to talk about legal issues and coordinating defense. So I guess that's where it gets a little juicy or maybe boring, depending on how you look at it, but we're going to talk about some of the issues we face We work a lot with General Liability Defense Counsel, trying to move the cases together because we're trying to save our clients money, reduce exposure, and also to close out the claims quickly. However, there are some hurdles that we oftentimes face, but we have found out ways to overcome those hurdles legally, ethically, and doing just the right thing. And those are the things that we're going to be talking about next month. All right, let me take a look and see if there are any questions. All right, so I don't see any questions. If you think of anything later, go ahead, you can send me an email or give me a call. I'd be more than happy to chat with you. Also, a reminder, my Construction Defense Handbook, we have an updated 2022 version. If you would like a copy, I do have them in PDF so you can search them. I'd be more than happy to send you a copy if you haven't received it already. All right, everyone, thanks again. Happy May. I'll see you here next month. Take care.